It's time for Lefties Losing It. Now, if you thought the horrific Islamist terror attack on Bondi Beach, an attack targeted against the Jewish community, would inspire some self-reflection from anti-Israeli activists like Greta Thunberg, well, you'd be wrong. No, far from even mentioning that awful preventable tragedy in Bondi, Greta Thunberg has posted a message in support of anti-Israeli activists in British prisons. Activists locked up for their alleged support of a terror group and for charges such as breaking into an RAF facility. They're the real victims in Greta's eyes.
Today, I and people all over the world are sending solidarity to the 8 individuals who are on hunger strike in British prisons, demanding that the government meets their demands of immediate bail, a right to fair trial, the deprescription of Palestine action, and an end to censorship. These individuals have been held in prison, some for over a year, without trial, and are currently unconvicted of any crime to date. They are on 42 days of hunger striking, a critical point that could lead to irreversible damage to their health and bodies.
Irreversible damage, she says. I wonder if there was a way to avoid that. I don't know, maybe these next lads can offer a solution.
Our friends are starving to death in UK prisons!
Have a sandwich then and get a job. That's brilliant advice right there. Now, I do wonder if there will be any self-reflection from other anti-Israeli activists like Abby Chatfield. She's been among those who have normalised hatred of Zionists, who have used the word Zionist as if it's a slur, as if believing in Israel's right to exist and defend itself is some sort of high crime. Wonder if there will be an apology or a vow to do better, perhaps a vow to stop posting poisonous trash like this next clip I'm going to show you, where Abby Chatfield called on Americans to murder President Trump. Yep. She really posted this just a few months ago.
Americans, when are you going to do it? Why isn't it already done? Every day there's another happening, right? Awful for your country. Awful, right? Why don't we redirect this energy to something else? You know, there's all these incels that are going, oh my me. So they go and do. You know what would actually make people respect you a little bit and make people want you? Is if you did it. Is if you did it. You get heaps of fan mail. Oh my God. Oh my God. Just do it.
Yeah, it's funny how the crackdown on so-called hate speech never seems to include the trash being spewed there. Now, here is a dose of weapon-grade chutzpah courtesy of CNN anchor Jake Tapper. Here he explains why he is hyper-fixated on Donald Trump's age.
We cover it all the time on my show, all the time. And I think that is to a large degree because we saw what happened with Biden, and while we covered it, we didn't cover it. Maybe we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time. And I think it is a legitimate question for any president of any age, but particularly anybody who is like in the range of being an octogenarian, right? We cover it all the time.
So let me get this straight. The guy who refused to cover Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline, indeed he attacked those of us who pointed out the very obvious cognitive decline, and then he wrote a book acting like he was breaking news on Biden's mental acuity, but he only wrote that book after Biden was dumped by the Democrats, and now he's acting like his failure to properly scrutinise Democrats is why he must be obsessively negative about Donald Trump. Makes perfect sense. Now, you know MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, or MS Now, whatever they're called these days. Nicole Wallace, well, she's a little batshit crazy on TV, but she really reserves the weapon-grade crazy for her podcast, where she seems to feature the worst opinions in America. This week, it's alleged comic and actress Leslie Jones.
How do you think it ends? How do you think the era ends?
Girl, this is what I'm hoping, that midterms people come out and vote like crazy to switch it over, and then the reckoning comes. That's what I want. Everybody that worked for ICE, I want them in jail. I just want a reckoning. I want a reckoning. Y'all know y'all did wrong stuff. You know some of the stuff you did was so wrong. I need a reckoning. Because that's, to me, that's the only thing that's going to make it right.
And you thought she was terrible in Ghostbusters, and yeah, she was. What a horrid piece of work. Wanting ICE agents to go to jail for doing their jobs, detaining illegal immigrants, including rapists and killers. Now, here's another former guest of Nicole Wallace's awful podcast, a former MSNBC anchor, Joy Reid, who is so far off the reservation, so extreme in her hard left views, that she actually seems to believe that the leftist media isn't left at all.
There's no liberal media. It's never existed other than in independent media. This is liberal media where we are right now on the left hook. Other than that, corporate media, there's nothing liberal about it. The owners are conservatives who want to do business with Trump.
Now, let's hear from Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who had this to say about the Islamist terrorist attack at Bondi.
Become a normal occurrence, not just in the United States, but now seeing it in Australia, who's worked really hard to create gun prevention laws to prevent the kind of tragedy that took place today.
Yep, so after two men carrying an Islamic State flag in their car gunned down innocent people at the beach, targeting a Jewish event, Elon wants to talk about gun laws. Never mind that Australia has some of the toughest gun laws anywhere in the world. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, the crisis we are dealing with is not going to be fixed by just further toughening gun laws.
No, and she knows it, and sadly the leaders here, from the Prime Minister all the way down to former and sitting political figures and lawmakers, have also jumped on that bandwagon. They do it back home in the US all the time, including her, because the end goal is to restrict more and more gun rights, which is one form of freedom. I know that's a very American point of view, but it is a form of freedom that you have the right to self-defense. Doesn't mean you can buy guns unchecked. There's plenty of checks, but everybody should have that right, essentially, right? And it's enshrined in the Constitution there. So there is a little bit of a backstop, but even still, many, many states, including Minnesota, have it tightly. And what are you going to do? Print out another legislation and wave it to a shooter when they come to you? Like, that's where it just makes no sense. It's treating legislation as some sort of magic wand that it isn't.
And to think that terrorists, people hell-bent on killing as many innocent people as they can, are going to respect gun laws. We know that illegal guns are available to those who want to seek them out. And surely a terrorist is not going to be observing gun laws.
No, it hampers law-abiding people. Those are the people who follow laws, and terrorists and criminals don't follow them. The issue, of course, is immigration, among others. That is a topic Ilhan Omar knows a lot about, and I think there's a reason why she's obfuscating and not focusing on that and focusing on gun rights instead.
Now, Coach, I want to play you some harrowing footage. Here you hear a pregnant mum, soothing and protecting a toddler who is not her child, and the Bondi gunmen are firing at this point, and they sound like they're very close by. Have a listen to this.
I got you. 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 We're going to stay here, and we're going to be nice and safe. And no one's going to hurt us, okay? No one's going to hurt us. We're going to be okay.
Can you hide?
Yeah, we can hide, baby girl.
Now, that woman is called Jess, and she met that little girl's grateful parents. This was a beautiful moment.
Last night when we spoke, you wanted to say thank you to Jess, the woman who saved Gigi's life. Well, let's bring her in so you can say it in person, Jess.
No, no, no.
This woman is a hero. Yes. She's a hero, my angel. Do you remember her?
Did she look after you, my darling?
Do you remember this lady? This is Jess, Gigi.
What do you want to say? Thank you, Jess.
I think she might want to be a reporter.
Kosha, it really was a selfless act. She ran to grab that child, Gigi. She lay on top of her to protect her.
I think in these moments of extreme tests of humankind, there always seems to be two sides to the coin, and when you see extreme evil, you also do see extreme humanity, and we see it often, and that was really something. You said she was pregnant herself and still had that instinct to go out there. I think it gives us all a little bit of hope that even if there's horrible evil in this world, and sadly there's been a lot in recent days and weeks, that all is not lost, and there are lots of good people still out there.
Absolutely, and the mother's instinct just kicked in there. Now, let's go to some of the international reaction. The Argentinian President Javier Milei has called out the hypocrites in the media and political class and some of the comments they've been making post-Bondi. He wrote, "Cognitive dissonance in light of the horrific attacks perpetrated by Islamist terrorists in Australia. Today we will see a bunch of political figures and media personalities, journalists, expressing their condolences and sympathies without any regard for the fact that they are the very same figures who promote woke, leftist and anti-capitalist ideas that lead to these outcomes." He also wrote, Kosha, about these characters attacking those who do try to promote pro-West values. Like himself, he's been a steadfast ally of the Jewish people, Javier Milei.
He has been, and he's very interesting because he's actually very interested in Jewish scripture. He's studied it from a theological perspective and all of that. So he certainly knows what he speaks in that sense, where he's coming sort of from their side or as an ally. But more importantly, what he's talking about is what we touched on before, that there are other things over here like immigration, like the fact that assimilation isn't happening or maybe doesn't work fundamentally, like the fact that certain cultures, religions, ideologies are not compatible. And what does that mean? And how are you going to unscramble that egg? Because it's very difficult to do once you've had 50 years of rather generous immigration policy in these countries. That's really what he's talking about. But people don't want to say that. And he's one of the few out there that will.
Well, there's an increasing number who are saying that, who are having the hard debates, who are not tiptoeing around these difficult issues, treading on eggshells. Donald Trump obviously is the most obvious. Yep. He says it very bluntly when it comes to immigration, when it comes to the merits of immigration from different parts of the world. But in Europe too, this is a debate that has really taken hold. We seem to almost be a bit of an outlier. We can't even talk about this. We have people even within the coalition who are reluctant to use the term mass migration because they think it has a negative connotation. Never mind that what we are seeing right now is mass migration, record numbers.
Yes, you're right. That is the most ascendant movement. It's no accident that Trump came into power, and Brexit and Nigel Farage and all these nationalist populist movements across Europe. It's certainly a battle. They are ascendant, but there's a lot of pushback in it. There seems to be a lag time too, where they're talking a lot about tightening immigration going forward, which is great. What do you do about the people that are already there? Illegals, okay, deportation, that's a big topic. Now when we get into legals, and are you repatriating people, or re-migrating people back out, or stripping citizenship, that stuff, I think people are just starting to touch on it. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where this is headed. I think that's a really, really tough time to find that we're there. And then if you look at Australia, as you're saying, that's more of an outlier. They're nowhere near that. They're not even talking about tightening legal immigration, let alone.
Well, no, we've got
else.
a bit of a uniparty attitude when it comes to this issue.
Sure.
Under the current leadership, perhaps it would change if there was a leadership change within the coalition. But let's stay in Latin America. There was a stunning election result in Chile. The ultra-conservative candidate won in a landslide against the leftist governing coalition. Jose Antonio Kast has secured almost 60% of the vote, Kosha, and he is expected to form the most right-wing government in more than 30 years in Chile.
That's an example, to your point, of how that movement is ascendant. And somebody, I think it was Javier Milei, who tweeted out a map of Latin America with the colors and how much of it is now in the right. And this is a continent that was so prosperous, actually. We've talked about Argentina before. Buenos Aires was one of the richest cities in the world, and how in such a short span of time, quarter century, half a century, they completely tanked their economy for all sorts of reasons, bad policy-wise, and how quickly he is turning it around, and the people have had enough. You just got Venezuela and Brazil basically on that map, the major countries that are still of the left, but they've had that fight. You had Bolsonaro there, who was of the right, and then he was defeated. And Venezuela is sort of a different case. But definitely the momentum in Latin America and the direction in which it's pointing is something to keep watch of.
Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has tweeted his congratulations, and he also said the United States looks forward to partnering with the Chilean administration to strengthen regional security and revitalise our trade relationship. And Kosha, you touched on Latin America turning right, with the exception of Brazil and Venezuela. You look at the countries here, and it's all happened within the last couple of years. This is a new phenomenon, but it's very strong. Got Javier Milei in Argentina, Paraguay's gone right, El Salvador, of course, Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, and now Chile. This is a movement that's on the rise.
It absolutely is. And there is some sort of osmosis effect probably that happens because a lot of these countries are small and they're close together, and you see such a dramatic shift. I mean, this guy is pretty staunchly in the right camp. People can look up his roots and his parents and all of that as well. So I think a lot of people probably are not expecting it or are stunned at how quickly these elections are reshaping these countries, and also the profile and the nature of the candidates that are coming in. Let's see what happens to Brazil, which is the last big one in, say, the next 5 years or so. And if so, then I think Latin America today is looking very different than how it did even 25 years ago.
Well, let's hope that prosperity comes back, and also a reduction in the crime rate. Like we've seen in El Salvador, we can see it is possible. Kosha, tell me about the fatal mass shooting at Brown University. What do we know about this case, and what do we know about the botched arrest of the suspect, who turned out not to be the suspect at all?
It's outrageous. So another shooting, and just the global media, you had Bondi and then you had this, the total number is lower, but just back to back, it's been pretty tough 48 hours, I think. At the university, and the main person who's been killed, there's another in critical condition, but she was the president of the Young Republicans group. We don't have any hard evidence to suggest that it was targeted, but many people are speculating.
Well, she was one of the rare openly conservative students on campus. So I can see why people feel like that perhaps she was a target. But how did the FBI or the local authorities stuff this up so bad?
Right, and then the FBI first had a person of interest who was then 12 hours later released, but they had the wrong guy. That person's name was circulated. A wrong photo for that person was circulated, so somebody else yet again, and then this person wasn't even right. So those two people have been tarred in the media and the internet, and maybe there's some price to pay for that. They're trying to be the most transparent FBI in history. That's one of Kash Patel's thing, and giving real-time updates. But it's not a good look. Similar happened in the Charlie Kirk case, where there was that person who sort of raised his arm and pretended to be the killer, which is weird. So this kind of thing happens, not a good look. And then the mayor, on top of that, doubled down. So as of this hour, the killer is still loose, and there's a manhunt underway. And the mayor doubled down and said, nothing to worry about, go back to your life, go back to your classes, which has a lot of people really, really outraged. A lot of parents saying there's no way they would let their kids go to campus and go to class if there's potentially an active killer on the run.
Let's have a look now at the scenes in Baltimore for the annual Army-Navy game. And I'll give our TDS-afflicted lefty viewers a fair warning here. You will be triggered by the reception the president receives. Just wait for that roar.
Joining me for the coin toss, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the Commander-in-Chief, our President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you for your leadership and your continued support of our service members and our veterans. It's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you. I warned you, the roar was deafening. The men and women of the armed services support the president, that much is clear, and they support the war secretary as well, Pete Hegseth, who came on the field singing Living on a Prayer. Kosha, tell me about the rivalry between the Army and Navy. The scenes from this game were absolutely wild. The passion was next level.
It's an iconic match that happens between them every year around this time of year. It is customary for the president or the head of the DOD, or now DOW, we should say, to go there. But that kind of roar, as you say, just really showcases what we know. We've seen it in recruitment numbers. We've seen it with other aspects and metrics of how they measure morale and whatnot of the military. And they really do love him and Pete Hegseth, and that came through. It is a friendly rivalry between the two branches, but they really go at it in this match.
They certainly do go at it. And you're right, that boost to recruitment numbers was immediate. In fact, it came even before President was sworn in for his second term. After that election result in November, the boost was pretty much immediate. Now, earlier today, the president signed an executive order classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. Have a listen.
Deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
Kosha, the Trump administration sees the distribution of fentanyl as akin to chemical warfare, and that's how they're tackling it.
For sure. It is, I think, 100,000 plus deaths a year. It's a little bit down now since Trump has been in office for the 1 year, but it's in that range. And it's the number one killer of young men below the age of 40, 35 or 40, something in that range. So this is a big deal. Doesn't get nearly enough coverage. Either it's from accidental overdose and or suicide, combined with the bad economy and all the other things that we talk about. So it definitely is a big deal. It's being trafficked across the border either through humans, illegals, or drug running, tunnels underneath, and all of that. It's why he's had the strategy of neutralizing ships in the Caribbean, and that's got a lot of discussion. So doing this, I think, declaring it in this way helps shape the conversation around it and draw attention to it, because WMDs has been a term that people liken to Iraq and all of that. And it also maybe opens up the available statutes for prosecuting crimes of dealing this further if it's something that's designated to be a WMD.
Well, the Democrats have certainly fought against the neutralising of those narco boats. They're calling it a war crime, and they've gone completely hysterical. How are they going to react to this policy? In my mind, it would be hard to argue against something like this because, as you said, it's killing so many Americans under 40.
Yes, if they do, then they're going to find themselves in the unfortunate position of defending fentanyl. So I'm not sure how they're going to do it. They'll probably focus in on the minutia of, he's exercising extrajudicial powers in some way. I think the president is free to rename and reclassify anything, whether it's Gulf of America or designating something a foreign terrorist or domestic terrorist organization or a WMD. So he can do that with the stroke of a pen. The next guy could undo it with the stroke of a pen. That's kind of the issue, and that's where you want this stuff enshrined in law, and you want the wall built and the border very, very secure in a way that can outlast Trump designating it as this. But I'm sure they're going to try to cancel out the optics in some way.
Now, let's hear from Border Czar Tom Homan talking about the impact border closures, of closing that southern border, has had on fentanyl trafficking, on human trafficking and other tragedies.
Under the last administration, over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. With a secure border, lives are being saved every day. Sex trafficking has plummeted. Fentanyl has plummeted. No inspected terrorists coming across borders plummeted. A secure border means stronger national security. But most importantly, it means saving lives. Saving aliens' lives and saving Americans' lives.
That's something that is often lost in this debate, Kosha. The thousands of lives that have been saved of illegal immigrants who made that perilous journey when the border was wide open. And you never hear about that. You never hear about children whose lives have been saved, not making that dangerous journey.
And I think we talked about that last week. There's 500,000 children just under the Biden years that were trafficked in, and about 60,000 or so of them have been recovered. That's huge. People making the journey, the immigrants themselves. It comes up here and there, like the boats going to England or coming here. It's a perilous journey, but not enough. And then once they make it here, what's happening to them? Children trafficking, sex trafficking, the fentanyl that we just talked about that's coming in and killing Americans in the community. So it's very smart communication and optics, because the whole issue had been moralized for so long that it's inhumane and family separation and, evil people trying to secure the border and rip up families and migrants that have been here for years. And they're trying to flip it clearly on its head and saying, actually, secure a border, save lives. It's pretty catchy, and hopefully they're able to really make it stick.
Kosher Gator, thank you so much for your time tonight.